Welcome back to my channel, my friends. In my last video, I talked about my first ever marathon experience, kind of the lead up to it, the race day, and I kind of provided a bit of an insight of what it looked like, but I didn't actually talk about how I managed the race and how I structured it because the video was already so long. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my strategy, how I kind of managed the distance, but also the pacing to give you a bit of an insight from a beginner perspective. And I want to make that clear. I'm not a full-time athlete. I'm not a professional athlete. I'm a beginner runner. This was my first ever marathon. I did not have a coach who gave me a template for the race with paces attached to it. So it was all just my own doing. And I kind of tried to find a way that would work for me, and it definitely worked. I had no injuries. I felt great during the race. I mean, it was hard, of course, but I felt great during the race and after the race. So I wanted to share this not as an advice or copy what I did, but just kind of maybe an inspiration how you could think about your strengths and weaknesses and then maybe arrange your own kind of strategy for your first ever marathon. And yeah, I thought that would be interesting maybe for you. And if you're new here, consider subscribing because the marathon was definitely not the last challenge that I set myself up to. I'm already planning on the new exciting things for later this year. And if you want to follow along, I appreciate if you would join the family. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my strategy kind of around the marathon, which turned out quite well for me because I got off and then it was all a bit overwhelming, but then when you kind of get into the rhythm, I was still faster than I wanted to be for the first kilometers, but then I kind of got into the swing of things and I was like, okay, if it's feeling fun and it's not too overwhelming, then these 20 seconds won't make much of a difference, because I know that I'm someone, if I start off too fast, I will never drop back into some comfortable feeling again. So I always need to prioritize starting really slow for just 1 or 2 kilometers, and then I can already increase the speed. But these 2 first kilometers are very crucial for me. I got to know that during my training. That's why training is not only for building fitness, but also to get to know your body and how it reacts. So I know personally that the first 2 kilometers are so important for me to keep really slow, and then I can see what I can do. And so I did that. I tried to stay as slow as possible for the first 2 kilometers, and then I went off. In the beginning, it was all very crowded, and so it was hard. You were overtaken by other people, or you wanted to overtake people, and there was not enough space. So for the beginning, until it kind of stretched out naturally and slowly, it was kind of a narrow-ish crowd, but that got better as we continued into the race. So that was not a problem, I would say, after like 8 kilometers anymore. And my strategy was to kind of go at a pace that was around the lower end of my heart rate zone 3, which I knew from training. On the day itself, heart rate was elevated. I was nervous. It was all overwhelming. I knew that this was probably kind of normal, but I also knew the weather was really nice and it was probably going to be hotter, so I didn't want to shoot too fast at the beginning because I wanted to see how the temperature was evolving, because I personally know, as we have also seen in the video where I showed a week of training, that I'm very heat sensitive, and that is still the case because where I live, we don't have these high temperatures for a long time in the year. And so it was kind of the first little heat wave that we had for the spring. So I knew I wasn't really heat adapted. I wanted to take it chill. And therefore I went kind of in a comfortable pace, not really a zone 2 pace, but the low end of zone 3 for the first half. Sometimes I got carried away. Also, even though the Hamburg Marathon is kind of really flat, there were like little elevations and then little downhills. And so I just tried to go with the flow. On the hills, when I felt like it was too exhausting, I slowed down a bit. And then on the downhill, when I felt like, okay, I can go with the flow, I got a bit faster. So it was not that all that steady pace, but I was always kind of hovering around a heart rate that I felt very comfortable with up until the half. And I also knew that the half is not really the turning point in a marathon. All the people that talk about their experiences always say 30-35 kilometers is the point from which on the decision is made how the marathon will go on and continue. So from the half point on, I didn't really want to shoot and do the all out because I feel like, yeah, I've done half, so now I can go all crazy. Therefore, I just increased the speed a little bit so that I maybe am now somewhere in the middle part of my zone 3 or maybe upper part of zone 3, but still feeling comfortable, not panting too much or too heavily, not feeling as if it was overwhelming. Throughout all the race, my body was feeling fine. I was so grateful for that because I had the little flare up in my calf and a little pain, and I was so happy that I took the decision and cancelled the last longer low intensity run, because I have never felt as good as in this race or a long run like that. Afterwards, obviously, everything was hurting. But during the race and also up until the point where I crossed the finish line, everything was feeling fine. I had no pain whatsoever. So yeah, that was really good for me personally, and I really liked that. And then around 35 kilometers, when I was feeling kind of a little bit more tired, I then decided to just see how fast I could go. I was really increasing the speed quite a lot for me personally. It was fine. I kind of could hold it, but it was also because the race was going into the city. It was the, for me, hottest part of the race as well. And so I was kind of struggling, but I did not have to stop, or I did not feel like I was about to fade or anything. But compared to the rest of the race, it was very, very hard for me to keep up with that pace. And maybe on some hills also, I couldn't really hold the pace. I felt like, okay, now let's really take it up. It's only 12 more or 10 more kilometers. But then halfway through that 12 or 10 more kilometers, I was like, okay, this is still kind of a distance. So that was kind of interesting, but I managed to go all the way to the end, and then all the crowds are cheering you on. And this was the moment where I was kind of taking the energy from the crowds, because I was like, I'm feeling I'm struggling and I really need some boost from the crowd. So that was the moment where I really was thriving in this environment, and I was like, okay, let's do this. It's just X more kilometers, and so you can actually do that. And yeah, then I finished, and it was very, very overwhelming for me, because I was not expecting it to be that okay. I was hearing many stories of people talking about their first marathon, or in general marathons, and saying from kilometer 30 on, it's so hard. And yes, it was hard, but it was not as hard as, for example, my 35-kilometer training run, which was much slower than my marathon, but it was so much harder. I think it was because of fueling, it was because of toilet scheduling and all that kind of stuff, and maybe some other daily form on that day. But for me personally, I had the feeling on marathon day, everything clicked. I felt rested up. I kind of felt ready to go, because I knew all the sessions that I had done with all the different levels. I knew, okay, I have already run 35 kilometers, and it was probably one of the hardest runs or long runs that I have done, even though I was kind of slow. And I also knew, okay, I have trained 21 kilometers in zone 4 or 17 kilometers in zone 4. So I knew, okay, I am able to sustain zone 4 effort for quite a while. So that was why I was feeling confident enough towards the end to step it up a bit and to go a bit faster and see what I could do for that race. Even though I did not have any like time goal or anything. So yeah, I was really happy with that, and I think that this is the most important part that I personally took away from the training, is that I knew on many different levels I have trained for this. I've been here already. We have kind of experienced this, even though it was in single runs and in many different facets and factors that you were experiencing in the training, but overall there was nothing new and surprising there. And yeah, I felt like everything just worked. My fueling worked. I had quite some gels on me, because I think on the course they had gels only from, I don't want to lie, definitely just for the second half. So in the first half there were no on-course gels that you could get. And so I took my own nutrition with me, so I had my gels with me. I think I took 1 or 2 cups of water every 5 kilometers, and so I kind of felt like it was sustainable. The fueling worked, my body felt fine. I kind of knew what I wanted to do on a strategy level, and so I felt all set to go. And during the race, I had the feeling that I was in control of the race, which I think is something very, very important, that gives you a kind of confidence boost, a feeling of security during your race when you have the feeling that you are in control. Yeah, So that was my marathon experience. I have seen so many inspiring people. What I personally like is when children run with their family. So I don't know, daughter and mother or daughter and father. When I see family members running together, I find that very, very heartwarming. And then all the very, very old people I found so inspiring, and I kind of get emotional by that, but I think it's so adorable when you see that people find a hobby that they stick to for so long and that their body is allowing them to do that in such an old age, and they probably definitely have put in the work for that. And I find that so inspiring to stay on top of your health game, just physically but especially also mentally, because I think running long distance races is all about the mental game. And so for me that was very, very inspiring and something that I think I will keep with me for quite a long while. Those are the people that you can definitely look up to, in my opinion. And so yeah, when I crossed that finish line, I also got this cool medal, which I think is kind of really nice. I find that very, very beautiful. So yeah, I got this medal and then I was ready. And I think the thing that I'm most happy about is what the training and the race did for me mentally. I feel like that in stressful situations or in situations where I feel like it's all a bit overwhelming, I can kind of transfer how I'm managing my thoughts or how I'm managing pain, and then just take the pain management and kind of transfer some aspects of that to dealing with overwhelming mental situations. I think going through hard phases but pushing through and then kind of finishing it and knowing, okay, now I'm prepared for this, the next time it won't be as hard and the next time it won't be as overwhelming. And then when stressful situations in daily life come around and they come for the second time or even for the first time, I feel like that I'm mentally better prepared for that. I feel a calmness and also a kind of confidence in myself that I'm able to manage situations that are hard or that are overwhelming, because I have done that in another area, for example, the marathon or any other physical training. So I feel like, and this is always a message that I want to get out there in the world, it's not about physical performance when you do physical performance, it's also about what your mental game is doing and how you are improving mentally and how you can transfer from these kind of maybe crazy scary goals in a training area or a physical performance area, and how you can take that and transfer this to other scary goals in your life or other situations in your life, and how it helps you there to be prepared for situations in other areas of your life. I think I always try to see things holistically, and training your mind, also your body, but especially your mind, in a training block and then in a race will give you so many benefits for all the rest of your life. I feel like the training block has really made me realize some things about myself. I got to know myself better. When you are out there for 20 plus kilometers and maybe your AirPods die, then you are with yourself and you are dealing with your thoughts and you are kind of getting to know the person that you are, but you are also surprising yourself in training sessions that you thought you could never do but then do, or maybe a race performance that you thought, wow, a year ago I would not even have imagined to be able to run a whole marathon. If someone 5 years ago would have told me you run a marathon in 5 years, I would have laughed, because this was so far away from anything that I had done. And I think building this up and kind of exceeding expectations that you have of yourself and who you are in these kind of hobby challenges, or like maybe fitness challenges or challenges of any kind in your life, then makes you realize, okay, maybe I am capable of so much more than I believe right now, also in other areas of my life. And I think this is a message that I hope on this channel I can kind of get out there, because I think this is very powerful, what we can do for ourselves to exceed expectations that we had, try out challenges, be curious, and just take the leap of faith and try things out, to then be able to surprise yourself in any kind of way, take that away from that and transfer it to other areas of your life. And with that being said, I think I have nothing more to say here. I hope you liked the video, and I would be really interested, and you can leave that in the comments, if you have any challenge that you are doing yourself, or maybe this video inspired you to do so, and maybe what kind of expectation that you had about yourself you exceeded and surprised yourself, and whether that helped you in your life. And I think with that being said, I'd say stay curious, look after yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.